December 20th, 1968. The temperature has fallen below freezing, an unusually bitter night for Northern California. On a lonely stretch of gravel outside the city of Vallejo, known as Lake Herman Road, a Rambler station wagon sits motionless in the darkness. There are no streetlights, no passing traffic, only silence. Inside the car are two teenagers on their very first date. 17-year-old David Faraday, 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen. Before leaving home, Betty Lou promised her parents they would be back by 11:30. She never returned. At approximately 11:15 p.m., another vehicle slowly pulls into the turnout. It stops only a few feet behind the Rambler. What happened over the next several minutes has never been witnessed by anyone. Everything investigators know today comes from forensic evidence recovered at the scene. The driver steps out of his vehicle carrying a .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol. He orders the couple out of the car. As David Faraday exits the passenger side, a single shot strikes him in the head. Betty Lou runs. She manages to cover only 28 feet before 5 bullets tear into her back. Within moments, the attacker is gone. No witnesses, no obvious motive, no fingerprints, only spent shell casings scattered across the frozen gravel. To local investigators, it appears to be a tragic but isolated double homicide, a senseless act of violence in an otherwise quiet community. Nothing at the crime scene suggests they are standing at the beginning of one of the most infamous serial murder investigations in American history. Within months, California would know the name: Zodiac. For 7 months, the Lake Herman Road murders remain entirely unsolved. The Vallejo police exhaust their leads. The community slowly begins to heal, dismissing the tragedy as a random act of senseless violence. Then comes the night of July 4th, 1969. Less than 4 miles from the site of the first murders, another young couple sits in a parked car at the Blue Rock Springs Park. Darlene Ferrin is 22 years old. Her passenger is 19-year-old Mike Mageau. Just before midnight, a dark-colored vehicle pulls into the empty parking lot. It circles them slowly, leaves the lot, and then returns a few minutes later, parking right behind them. A heavy-set man steps out, shining a blindingly bright flashlight directly into the couple's eyes. Assuming the man is a police officer, Mageau reaches for his wallet. Without a single word, the man raises a 9mm handgun and fires 5 shots through the passenger side window. Both victims are hit multiple times. As the killer turns to walk away, Mageau groans in pain. The gunman coldly turns back, fires 2 more shots into each victim, and vanishes into the darkness. Darlene Ferrin dies before she reaches the hospital. Mike Mageau survives. He becomes the first person to look the killer in the eyes and live. Less than 40 minutes after the shooting, the telephone rings at the Vallejo Police Department dispatcher's desk. Operator Nancy Slover answers. A breathless, mechanical-sounding voice speaks on the other end of the line. The caller reports a double murder at Blue Rock Springs. Then, just before hanging up, he adds a terrifying postscript. He claims responsibility not only for the shooting that night, but for the murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen 7 months earlier. The anonymous killer has officially stepped out of the shadows, and he wants an audience. On July 31st, 1969, 3 major Bay Area newspapers, the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner, each receive a nearly identical handwritten letter. The author claims responsibility for both double shootings. To prove he is the killer, he reveals unreleased details about the crime scenes, details only the murderer or the police could have known. But the letters contain something else. Each envelope includes 1/3 of a 408-symbol cryptogram. The writer demands that the ciphers be published on the newspaper's front pages by the following weekend. If his demands are ignored, he threatens to begin a random killing spree. Each letter is signed with a strange symbol, a circle crossed by a vertical and horizontal line, resembling the crosshairs of a rifle scope. The newspapers reluctantly publish the ciphers. Investigators believe it will take a supercomputer or a team of military codebreakers to solve them. Instead, less than a week later, a local high school teacher named Donald Harden and his wife Betty crack the cipher at their kitchen table. The decrypted message offers a chilling glimpse into the killer's mind. It reads, in part, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." A few days later, another letter arrives at the San Francisco Examiner. It begins with a sentence that will forever define the killer's identity. "Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. By September 1969, the Zodiac has established a clear pattern. He targets young couples in secluded areas. He attacks under the cover of darkness, and afterward, he taunts the police from a safe distance. But on September 27th, he breaks his own rules. 20-year-old Brian Hartnell and 22-year-old Cecilia Shepard are relaxing on a small peninsula at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. It is broad daylight. The shoreline is quiet. As they sit on a blanket, Cecilia notices a man emerging from the trees. At first, he seems distant. Then he keeps coming. When he finally steps into full view, the couple is confronted by a waking nightmare. The man is wearing a black executioner's hood that hangs down to his chest. Stitched across the front, in stark white, is the Zodiac's crosshair symbol. He wears clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes of the mask. In one hand, he carries a pistol. In the other, a foot-long knife. His voice is calm. He claims to be an escaped convict from a Montana prison. He says he needs money and a car to escape to Mexico. He tosses Brian a length of plastic clothesline and orders Cecilia to tie Brian's hands before binding Cecilia himself. Believing they are being robbed, Brian remains calm and cooperative. But once both victims are lying face down on the ground, the man never asks for money. Instead, he draws the knife, then begins stabbing them repeatedly in the back. Before leaving, the killer walks over to Brian's car. Using a black marker, he draws his crosshair symbol on the driver's door. Beneath it, he carefully writes the dates of the previous attacks. Then he adds one final entry. September 27th, 1969, 6:30 p.m. by knife. Cecilia Shepard falls into a coma and dies 2 days later. Brian Hartnell survives. His testimony gives investigators their most detailed description yet of the killer's voice, his behavior, and the disturbing theatricality of his crimes. Exactly 2 weeks after the attack at Lake Berryessa, the Zodiac changes his method once again. On October 11, 1969, a San Francisco taxi driver named Paul Stein picks up a passenger headed for the affluent neighborhood of Presidio Heights. This is no longer a secluded lover's lane. It is the heart of San Francisco. When the cab stops near the intersection of Washington and Cherry Streets, the passenger pulls out a 9mm pistol and shoots Paul Stein once in the back of the head. The killer then climbs into the front seat. He takes the driver's wallet, carefully wipes down the dashboard, then uses a knife to cut away a large piece of Stein's blood-soaked shirt. Across the street, 3 teenagers watch the scene unfold from a second-story window. They immediately call the police while keeping their eyes on the suspect. They describe a heavy-set white man wearing glasses as he calmly walks away from the cab and heads north. But as the dispatch is broadcast to responding officers, a catastrophic mistake is made. Somewhere along the chain of communication, the suspect is mistakenly described as a black male. Just 2 blocks from the crime scene, San Francisco police officers Donald Fook and Eric Zelms spot a heavy-set white man walking toward Presidio Park. Believing they are searching for someone else, they drive right past him. Only minutes later, the description is corrected. By then, the man is gone. He disappears into the darkness of the Presidio. Using the teenagers' remarkably detailed observations, police create what would become the infamous composite sketch of the Zodiac Killer. A man believed to be in his 30s or 40s, crew-cut, thick-rimmed glasses. It is the closest investigators will ever come to catching him. 2 days after the murder of Paul Stein, the San Francisco Chronicle receives another envelope. Inside is yet another letter from the Zodiac. But this time, it contains proof. Folded inside the paper is a blood-soaked piece of Paul Stein's shirt. Any lingering doubt is gone. The killer has proven he is exactly who he claims to be. Fear spreads across the Bay Area. The Zodiac is no longer seen as a predator lurking on isolated country roads. He can strike anywhere. Anyone can become his next victim. But it is the final paragraph of the letter that sends the region into panic. The Zodiac threatens to attack a school bus. He writes, "Just shoot out the front tire, then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out." The reaction is immediate. Armed police officers begin riding on school buses. Patrol cars follow school routes. Some parents keep their children home. Fear becomes part of everyday life. In early November, another letter arrives. Inside is a new cryptogram containing 340 symbols. Far more complex than the first, it refuses to give up its secrets. The investigation now stretches across multiple jurisdictions. San Francisco inspectors Dave Toschi and Bill Armstrong join forces with investigators from Vallejo and Napa. But this is still 1969. There are no computerized databases, no digital fingerprint searches, no DNA analysis. Evidence is shared through phone calls, filing cabinets, and stacks of paperwork. Thousands of tips pour in. So do false confessions, and countless dead ends. The investigation grows larger, but no closer to the truth. As weeks become months, the trail of physical evidence grows colder. Over the decades, investigators examined thousands of potential suspects. Most were eventually ruled out, but one name continued to surface again and again: Arthur Leigh Allen. In 1971, a man named Don Chaney told police that Allen had once described a story about a killer who hunted young couples, attached a flashlight to his gun, and called himself Zodiac. The similarities were difficult to ignore. Allen lived in Vallejo, just minutes from the sites of the first attacks. He owned a Zodiac Seawolf wristwatch bearing the same crosshair symbol used by the killer. He was also in the Lake Berryessa area on the day Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were attacked. On top of that, Allen generally matched the description given by witnesses. Heavy-set, short hair, thick-rimmed glasses. For years, investigators returned to him again and again. They searched his homes. They questioned him repeatedly, but suspicion alone could never secure a conviction. And every major piece of physical evidence pointed in another direction. Handwriting experts concluded that Allen's writing did not match the Zodiac's letters. His fingerprints failed to match those recovered from Paul Stine's taxi. Years later, advances in forensic science allowed investigators to recover a partial DNA profile from saliva found beneath the stamps on the Zodiac's letters. Allen was not a match. More than half a century later, the debate remains unresolved. Some believe crucial evidence was contaminated, or that someone else licked the stamps. Others believe police became so convinced of Allen's guilt that they overlooked the real killer. If Arthur Leigh Allen wasn't the Zodiac, then who was? After 1974, the authenticated letters suddenly stopped. The Zodiac simply disappeared. For decades, the case remained open, gathering dust while the world moved on. But the mystery refused to die. In December 2020, more than 50 years after it was mailed to the San Francisco Chronicle, the Zodiac's infamous 340-character cipher was finally solved. A small international team of amateur codebreakers, using custom software and relentless determination, succeeded where investigators had failed for half a century. The message contained no confession, no identity, no final clue. Instead, it delivered one last taunt. The killer wrote, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." It was a chilling reminder that even after all those years, the Zodiac was still mocking the world. Today, investigators continue testing the remaining evidence using modern forensic techniques, including investigative genetic genealogy, hoping to identify a surviving relative. But decades of degradation and contamination have made a definitive answer increasingly unlikely. The most unsettling truth about the Zodiac is not that he was some criminal genius. He wasn't. He made mistakes. He left footprints. He left fingerprints. He left survivors. He was almost stopped while walking away from Paul Stine's murder. What saved him was not brilliance, but timing. He exploited the technological limitations of his era and the failures of agencies that struggled to work together. He promised the world he would never be forgotten. He was right. But behind the ciphers, the letters, the mask, and the legend, there remains only an unidentified man who disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind shattered lives and one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American criminal history.